Mr. James Scarlett, we go international. How are you, pal?
I am very good, mate. I'm very good. How are you? You look well sunned. For those
I am
people
looking
not
at,
watching on YouTube.
yes, for those not watching, I suppose there's a bunch of things to start us off with. I am in Mexico. This is the most, well, I need to put a picture of this and show it to social media. It show the setup that I've got in front of me. I'm currently talking to James on my iPhone, which is stuck to the balcony window using my daughter's phone case. I'm hoping that's not going to slide off. So that's the first issue. If you're wondering why the audio is different, it's basically an iPhone now recording this over in Mexico. I have an iPad set up in front of me for the episode plan, which James has cobbled together since the loss of Clown Core. Two Cerveza Doniquist. You know how I'm good with my pronunciations. Cerveza dos Equi. They are Lager Especial, and I noticed that the housemaid or whoever it was, they put in another wee mini bottle of tequila. So if this goes well, I'm definitely having a shot of that as well as my as well. So it's a ramshackle setup, but we're here and we do go again.
So if anyone mentions Tom Begley machine at the Wild Arts, you have a shot of tequila, right?
In fact, I think I noticed there's a woman called Miley Stevens who asked one of the questions, who's like the world's second biggest Julie Christmas fan behind me. So that's another Julie Christmas. There's plenty tickets drinking today. Plenty.
Amazing. I'm jealous. I'd rather be you in Mexico than me in Bristol. Definitely. I mean, I feel like recently we spend a lot of episodes saying to people, this is why it's not quite normal. And now we weren't going to do an episode with you in Mexico, were we? But then we thought, well, we didn't really cover 2000 Trees review properly when we were live in the live pod, which we'll talk about later. And also since then we've had the Clown Core thing. It feels like there's stuff to talk about, and we should do it in real time because that's what good podcasters do.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, we shit ourselves more often than most people do, and we talk about like, oh, look at this, the shite audio and the shoddy setup. But I tell you what, sometimes you just have to go, listen, this is fucking quite professional too. Like the amount of people I speak to in this industry who are always too busy for that. Can't set up a meeting until next Wednesday. I'm too busy. They don't have the fucking any idea what too busy is like. Having a real career outside what this industry's like, and this is, I mean, for fucking not to pat ourselves in the back, but we will make this podcast happen from absolutely fucking anywhere in any circumstances, no matter how many days it takes. And you're totally right. We have the trees things need to be discussed because we were going to put an episode this week. We pre-recorded the cost of our festivals, which would have sounded a wee bit weird because we recorded before you were in the middle of the build up at trees, and then ultimately the week after that we're going to have the trees review, and then the Clown Core news. Like, no, fuck it, let's just get Gavin's daughter's phone case stuck to a balcony window, get a couple of Dos Cervezas in us, and go. So here we are.
Yes, we are, mate. So how is Mexico? You have a nice time?
It's absolutely fantastic. My wife, I think my wife's going big guns in this place because it's class. She's a breadwinner in the family, obviously, with Damnation being such a huge failure. So it's she's just, I don't know, but she's spent this, and it's fucking brilliant. There's a mini bar in the room behind me full of all sorts of Jim Beam and tequila and gin and vodka and everything but the weather. The weather outside at the minute is like 35 degrees and it's sweltering. I mean, I think the only place I've ever been on that's felt hotter was Dubai. But I went a few days in Dubai when I was on my way to Mauritius for the honeymoon. It was like you couldn't leave it. You left the front door. It was like 100% humidity along with, I don't know, 45 degrees, and you couldn't breathe. I mean, especially me, a Glaswegian. I'm built for Scotland. I am built to survive in Scotland. And this time of day, because there'll be 8:30 where you are now in Bristol. It's 2:30. It's 2:30 here in Mexico. And this is the height of it. So even when we suggested let's try and make this happen, like that works for me nicely because this time of day I am just a red sweltered mess. How's Bristol?
It's been a lovely day today. So yeah, so not that hot, but nice. You sound a bit like a football reporter who's been sent out to I guess the Americas to report on a game because it's slightly There's something slightly different about your voice, but I quite like it. It's like the Scottish football correspondent has gone to Mexico City to report on the World Cup game against Mexico.
Aye, for all the complaints about my accent and then everything else with the audio we've had in this podcast, I am taking no shit for this. You are an iPhone, pretty much sellotape to a pane of glass. This was never going to sound fantastic. And for me, I hate having earphones in for anything. That's why I don't wear them when we do the podcast. And for this, the only way I can get audio from you into my ear is by wearing some. I'm wearing one, so I feel awkward, but it's actually you're coming into my head at one angle, and I can only really hear myself to the right because with the way this is set up in Zoom, I can't hear myself through the earphones, so I can't put both in either. So I am taking no grief for the state of this audio. You'll see my hands get up to, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see my hands get up to the screen every now and then. It's because I'm trying to keep this thing from sliding off the glass. So the last time we spoke, James, that was because we had the live pod. I know we're going to talk about that later, but we had the live pod on Thursday of Trees, party that night, and then I was pretty much up and away to get my flight to come to Mexico. So we haven't spoken. There's been no voice notes, there's been no messages. This just came down to the first one. Other than saying, do you want to do this tomorrow because we've got Clowncore have just dropped out. And for people listening, this is Tuesday, the 23rd of July. You will get this podcast on Thursday, the 25th of July. So we haven't spoken in the interim. So how's things been for you? Clowncore aside.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Good. I mean, so I guess I saw you Friday morning at Trees as you were leaving. We said goodbye to each other, and then I went and gave it big for another couple of days. We'll talk about everything I got up to later. Trees, the 2000 Trees breakdown was pretty brutal this year. Breakdown always has, like the pack down of the site always has a bit of, it's very tiring. Everyone's broken. The entire team have been working for a couple of weeks, and some of them have been partying for a couple of weeks as well. This year was bad. It was wet, so we had a lot of vehicles getting stuck. We spent a lot of the week, or the team spent a lot of the week, not me, towing vehicles out of the mud. And then I've dropped back in reality in Bristol. I've had 4 or 5 days of actual sleep, and yeah, school holidays now for me. My first ever school holidays with my 5-year-old. But yeah, it's good. It's it's getting real again now because it's basically ArcTanGent time, which we'll talk about also in a minute, I think. So yeah, I'm feeling good, but busy, hectic.
Good. Well, it's good to see you. I loved Trees. I absolutely fucking loved it. I came away from Trees feeling really positive about just the live music scene in general. You know, it was all very well to say, aye, that's a good time. I go to plenty of festivals and have a good time, you know what I mean? But it was something that I know we'll give Rob shit the podcast about vibes and happy people in a field, but I mean, you get it at Trees. There is a serious
vibe is real, isn't it?
The vibe is real. Because it's easy to say, I could just say that to you because you're personal, but it's different from ArcTanGent also. I mean, would you agree that there's just a different feel to what's going on in Trees and just how energetic and fucking smiley it is?
I actually thought it was a proper classic Trees year for that. I think because the weather is about perfect to get people in a good mood for a festival. It's like you kind of want it to be hotter and sunnier, but in reality, that just knackers people out. Everyone flops on the grass, and you'd be watching a band thinking, I wish there were more people. Everyone's sat outside the tent. Whereas, you know, the sort of like 20 degrees, a little bit overcast, some bits of sunshine, very little rain is perfect for just people, perfect for drinking. It's perfect for watching music.
And conserve that energy. I mean, we'll get into this, but just to quickly recap, I mean, the Hot Mulligan and Spanish Love Song sets that I saw in that tent were, I mean, I don't remember the last time I've seen that type of energy. And it's different from your hardcore mosh pit Slayer type energy, just that whole outpouring of love, where it seems like it's almost like you're at a Taylor Swift concert where everyone knows the words, but you're also at a Machine Head concert, everyone's got the energy. You mean, it's like a combination of both those factors. I don't know anything about Hot Mulligan. I was watching like, shit, this is fucking spectacular. Just for the fun. Like, it could have been anyone on stage at that point. I was just watching it going, this is but how much energy, this is like rock stars playing here. Like, everybody is 100% invested.
Yeah, those there's there's a bunch of Axium stage bands. The ones at the end of each day just all were packed and all were like really electric atmospheres. And yeah, it felt good because as a booker, really the thing that makes you the happiest is a packed stage, isn't it? It's like every single band I watched at Trees this year had a healthy crowd. It's not always the case, not 100% of the times is that the case, but it was this year. And people were the fans just seemed happy, and I don't think I met anyone that wasn't like nice and friendly. I mean, me and you had quite an experience, didn't we, with just people coming up to us a lot.
and that was not the festival I was expecting that to happen. I expected ArcTanGent. I have just lost James.
Amazing. His phone's fallen off. Anyone who's on Spotify needs to get onto YouTube right now.
You need to, Brian will keep this band, but this is what you're stuck to here. See this bit of pink this pink rubber is what's holding you in my eye line. So listen, if it drops a couple of times.
It's a real high moment of the podcast so far. Is sort of Gav went upside down and then he disappeared. Absolutely brilliant. As his phone fell off the window.
I need to do more to protect this phone.
Do not edit this, Brian. We're now looking at Gav's palm. Amazing.
We never said it would be professional. We just said we would put it all into it, which is exactly what we're doing. I'm going to have a word with my daughter. She promised me that this was going to stick for the duration, but I don't think she was expecting 35 degrees on the other side and a glass melting in the back of your phone case. So, yes, we had, I did not expect the amount of people who recognised us and then came up and said hello. And I mean, there's some crazy ones that we spoke about on the podcast. I mean, the guy for Gallows. The guy for Gallows asking you, is Gav here? Is the most. Yeah. I mean, that's fucking insane. And Meryl Streep recognising who I was. I mean, it was. I introduced a couple of things to the guy from Boston, the singer from Boston Manor. I don't know if he listened to the pod or not, but he seemed unbelievably friendly. And there was a lot of that, considering I was only there for one full day of the actual festival, not just the warm-up day. It was unreal. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I can't say nothing but good things about my experience at Trees.
Yeah, we noticed quite quickly that me and you have quite a different attitude to just chatting with people, didn't we? You're like, I think you said something to me like, you really don't like small talk, do you?
And the thing is, I'm not even the biggest small talker in the world, but I just something about somebody come up and make the time to say, I'm like, oh, I love the pod, but you're very much like, I appreciate that bit. But like, if you're going to then start getting into a long-winded conversation or something, you're going to complain about my festival. I have got a short patience for that kind of chat, but I suppose I'm just a bit more like, well, let's just give the personal time of day. But you're right. But it was good. It was a cracking walk through those fields, that's for sure.
Yeah, and in my defence, it's one of those things that if you bumped into me in Bristol, I'd be quite happy to stand and chat to you. But when I'm at Trees, I'm like, oh my God, I'm missing Spanish love songs. I really don't want. Every conversation you have is like, what? I'm constantly torn between chatting and watching music and seeing my friends and family as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right, okay. Get into this episode. So first off, this will be, by the time this comes out, and the next episode is 5 months. It's amazing in one way that this is 5 months old, this podcast, and in another way, fuck me, feels like we've been doing it longer, because hopefully we'll be best part of 30 episodes. You're about to fall again, and we're back. You will now see the phone came off the window twice, and it seemed to be getting more frequent. So I am now in a different spot, and thankfully I'm right under the fan as well. So hopefully that's the last.
Look, the listeners have missed a brilliant few minutes of you walking around with your phone in your face trying to get it in. So I think we'll probably release that outtake at some point, Bri. I think.
Bri will definitely an end of the year outtake, because there was one we done recently. Oh, in fact, it was the one obviously for the farm, and your brother Rob comes in. Sorry if I keep referring to him as the brother Rob, but Yari's brother, and he is the guy in the podcast.
He loves that.
It's one of these ones that if you were doing that in family circles at Christmas dinner, you go, "Oh, this is Rob, James's brother." Like, what the fuck? I'm more than James's brother, but in the context of this podcast, that's what he is. You know what I mean? And you're Rob fucking Flynn. So you just have to accept that he's Rob James's brother. So you're sitting at Christmas dinner and it's like, No, what the fuck am I talking about? He came in with Mark at that trees one, and we were going, you're a pair of fannies. No, I fucking love them. So Brian must have an absolute classic collection of snippets of us looking blankly at screens and hoping that something's going to work at some point. So, where were they, James? Come on, take me.
I think you were about to tell us that the world's greatest hot sauce provider is...
The world's greatest hot sauce provider is Woes fucking Brews. Now, I've had some good hot sauces across here, mate, but it's difficult to compete with some of yours ones. The only one I've not tried yet that people are raving about is 2000 degrees. So have you still tried 2000 degrees as well?
Mate, I had a real... I spoke to Kev, who runs our merch, today on the phone, and I said, I'm really sorry, mate. I don't know what I was doing. We went in there on Wednesday. You were with me. And that was the only time I went in merch. So it all ended. I woke up on the Sunday. I was like, shit, I didn't get any merch. So I didn't get a hot sauce. I didn't get a towel. Did you get a towel?
I got a towel, mate.
And didn't even get a fucking towel. So I didn't get one of our Proms One Pod t-shirts. So it's just a good segue actually into how well our merch went. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed, so I haven't tried the hot sauce.
Well, I'm sure I saw Lou say online he'll sort you out with hot sauce, and by all means, Lou, you can send me a 2000 degrees at the same time. He is your hot sauce man. He attended the live pod, and see, to be honest, I just seem to be spending my festivals when I show up with Lou. He just seems to be that guy that end up bouncing around me. He's a top bloke, as they might say in Manchester, despite the Manchester City Association. It just turns out that as of today, Celtic are playing Man City tonight at our time, Mexican time at 6:30. So by the time this is out, we'll probably be pumped 15-0. But if that does happen, it's purely because it was Celtic's B-side, okay?
That'll probably be on, mate, won't it? You'll get that on the TV, I reckon.
Aye, but I know Celtic, we were playing DC United the other night, and no one gave a shit. So couldn't get. I mean, there was professional diving and fucking Red Bull sort of like jumping into water, and I couldn't get the fucking Celtic game on the TV. But I'm thinking now with Man City, I'll probably Sky Sports or a BT Sports or something. So we'll get that tonight. But don't hold that against Lou. He is also a gentleman. He does crack and hot sauces. You know by now. You only need to say pod, and the answer back is 15. People know where to go. Get 15% off your hot sauces. And support him because he supports us.
Absolutely. He is a good guy.
And for merch, yes, we had the towels and the t-shirts at Trees. I believe we get 50 towels printed. I think half of them are now gone, which is incredible. There's so many people wanting to go and buy a Proms One Pod tee, and the tees are a bit the same, probably about half each stock, the black and the white one. We were toying with the idea of getting them listed before ArcTanGent, was just going to be too much hassle for the guys at Big Scary Monsters and Allotment. So we'll have the remainder of that stock at ArcTanGent. I would say there's a real chance it will sell out, and then after that we will come up with a new plan for fresh merchandise for online for anyone who wants to support the pod but wasn't at 2000 Trees or won't be at ArcTanGent.
I mean, I have to say my mind was absolutely blown by the sales figures when he sent them through to us, and the fact that within about 5 seconds of the festival opening, I'd already seen 2 people wearing the t-shirt. It's weird. It's like we started this podcast as just like some idea that you had that I wasn't that keen on. And now people are wandering around carrying towels and wearing t-shirts with our podcast name. So yeah, fucking hell. Great. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you everyone. That was great. It was amazing to see the t-shirts. I mean, they're cracking t-shirts. The guys have done well with the print of them. And that was great. I think he sent us a message like half an hour in saying 12 t-shirts sold. I mean, that's the kind of sales you expect for one of the big bands when folk are first walking in on the Wednesday of it. So a massive thanks to everyone who supported that. It was great. Looking forward to that.
And Kev, who sorted it out for us. I mean, and absolutely smashed the merch this year. Our merch figures are way up on any previous year. It's like the best 2000 Trees merch year ever, even though I didn't spend any money on that. So yeah, so it was good. So we tell people about what we're going to do today. Yes. We obviously do some questions, and then the questions will involve a clown core question, of which you can grill me on and I will tell you the truth. And and then we're going to sort of like debrief 2000 Trees, do a little review of what we got up to, and certainly some stuff that I got up to after you'd left, and talk about things that went wrong and maybe some plans for next year. And just, yeah, really just, for anyone who's like sitting at home thinking, for fuck's sake, I'll go to Damnation or ArcTanGent, why'd you keep talking about 2000 Trees? I think this is like the last big 2000 Trees episode for a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, we will move on to other festivals shortly, no doubt.
And to be fair, that was a fear of mine when we were trying to discuss the episode plans of the last month or so. And anything that I thought it was going to be like a Talking Trees with Frank Turner, followed by like a Trees preview, I got a wee bit nervous about actually. What about a Damnation fan who isn't going to come to Trees or might not be interested? I haven't seen any evidence of that. I feel like people are saying we are still approaching it with the same level, like the transparency, or try to keep it interesting. They're talking about subjects that even if you don't go to Trees, you're talking about it in the same context you would be if you were talking about a Damnation band. So fortunately, I don't feel that people have been put off by that. The download figures don't seem to be saying that either. So great, thanks for sticking with that. And also, when it comes to ArcTanGent and around ArcTanGent, it'll probably get quite ArcTanGent heavy, and then it'll get quite Damnation heavy. And that's the way it'll go, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite looking forward to the Damnation, but yeah, go for
it. Okay, Tom George. Does a shorter gap between Trees and ArcTanGent this year cause any issues with preparation, Mr. Scarlett?
I mean, for the punters, it will have no effect. And for the people working there, it will have no effect. And the contractors, it will have no effect. But for like me and the organising team, it's a big difference. We've got 2 weeks between our being on site, whereas we normally have 3. So that is like 50% reduction in the amount of time you've got. It's a fuckload. So I like, I was working at 11 p.m. last night and I was working at 6 a.m. this morning. I'm like, and just on my laptop, just, today I was finalising the fencing numbers, finalising the trackway numbers, talking about the tent walls with the marquee company, and just a bunch of stuff like that, and getting our sort of production schedule. We've got meetings nearly every day with the team, like on different topics. So there'll be a meeting on traffic one day, there'll be a meeting on health and safety another day. So it's pretty full on. So does it have an effect? No, but my stress levels are like, I feel like I am like properly, I've got a lot to do, possibly more than I've got time to do. So you just do the important jobs first, and the other jobs might happen or they may not happen.
And I'm asking a stupid question here. Why is there a difference in the week?
It's because Trees is the second weekend in July. So that moves in the calendar. And ArcTanGent is always the last weekend before the bank holiday. Because you can't clash with the bank holiday because it's like Reading and everything else. So we always sit the week before. So basically those 2 weekends move around. So the festivals get closer and further apart every year. And sometimes there's 5 weeks between the festivals and sometimes there's 4 weeks between the festivals. But obviously 4 weeks for me is actually only 4 weeks between the dates. It's only 2 weeks of actually on-site time.
Off-site, aye.
Yeah. So yeah. It's and we got out of Trees late because of the mud. So we were there about a day and a half longer than normal. So by the end, no one wants. Everyone's just like, we're done. Apart from Dinah, who you met Dinah, right? She's the happiest, most amazing person who looks after us all festival. I think she's quite happy to stay another day because she loves it.
Honestly, what a hero to meet in day one as well. Absolutely. What a legend. So we're going to have get your drinks ready. We're going to have Tom Begley on at some point to discuss some ArcTanGent chat. And that point, he says at the start of tour, he's a tour manager, as well as Quinn Bosk, and everyone gets together and they're all buzzing. And it's like, oh yes, and they said by the end, people cannot leave each other quickly enough. Yeah. It's like, just give me my fucking flight ticket and tell me what terminal I'm going to, and everyone just disappears. It's like, he said, the difference of that be 2 weeks, 2 months. He says, unbelievable. And that's the kind of feeling you get at festivals. It was like, I love you, mate. I love you, but I need to be away from you.
Yeah, and also it's like 30 goodbyes. It takes up time. It's slowing you down as people leave at different times. So it's just like, yeah. We'll see each other. Most people are going to be at ArcTanGent, so we'll see you again.
Okay, Steve Dunn, you've said before that you expect a drop off with Clowncore. Right, okay, I think this question needs some punctuation. You've said before that you expect a drop off, but with Clowncore being quite a rare live act, do you have a plan B in mind just in case? Would be good to know the thought process around options either before or now.
Yeah.
Very
So
tiniest question because obviously for all folk that are just coming to this podcast and maybe haven't been online, Clowncore, one of the biggest acts in the acts we've been speaking about quite a lot on this podcast, were due to play ArcTanGent, and you found out, if I'm right, reading your social media yesterday, that they are no longer available. They've cancelled all 4 dates that they were due to play due to illness, I believe.
yeah, it's a bit annoying because I mean it's annoying on many levels, but one of the things that happened is that even when I'm on holiday, I take my laptop and I check my emails at least once a day, right? So all year round, apart from at Christmas, I check my emails every day. I was so broken after 2000 Trees this year that I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to have a week off. So I didn't open my laptop from the day Trees ended until the Monday, another whole week. I took a week off the laptop. And when I opened it, the Clowncore news was there and it was 4 days old. It's like, fucking hell. So, and they were chasing us saying, have you seen this? Because we want to announce it. And I was like, oh, yeah, thanks for letting us know. We've seen it. And then they immediately put the post out. So it went up on Clowncore socials before, because I like to try and manage the communication on that and be able to say to people, Clowncore are no longer playing, nothing we could do about it. We're working on a replacement. But actually what happened is everyone was like, oh my God, have you seen that Clowncore are not playing? It just went out on the Clowncore socials. So we were scrambling to get a statement together. It's pretty frustrating. I mean, the one thing I do think that after so many years of running festivals, there's certain problems that come up over and over again. And this is one of them. And if this had happened to me in 2009, like it did with Ruben, which literally just broke me and I didn't know how to react to it and I didn't know what to do. And now I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to think about the disappointment of, yes, we were all looking forward to Clowncore. Probably no one more so than me. And believe me, it took a lot of fucking convincing to convince them to play what they considered to be a metal festival. So it's really disappointing, but I'm not doing disappointment. We've got 100 whatever bands we can watch, and it'll be great. Go and watch Author and Punisher instead. But the idea of like, then what do you do? What are your options? So that Steve in this question is asking, did you have a plan B in mind? So I never have a backup list for big acts. I think it's totally pointless. And actually, It's been. I'm not criticizing any of our audience here, but it's been a bit frustrating watching social media because everyone's like, book the Melvins, book Godspeed. Why don't you get the Jesus Lizard? And it's like, don't shout obvious bands at me because I've already talked to those bands. It's like me saying to you, have you checked with Machine Head yet this year? No, sorry. But there are some bands you check with every year, right? Have I tried to book Alexis on Fire, Deftones, and Biffy Clyro? Of course I fucking have. So going back to them with a week's notice is not going to happen, is it? Do you see what I mean? Like Godspeed, Godspeed get an email from me every year.
And it's like, and again, the whole point of this podcast is to bring everyone on the journey with us too. It's like, I appreciate your enthusiasm. At least you're not on the ArcTanGent social media going, your fucking festival's a shit show and you can't hold together a fucking band. And like, at least there's not that bit. So you appreciate that somebody's not just sticking the knife in you. But at the same time, just going, as you say, Godspeed You Black Emperor have got a free date the day before they do Canada. Why don't you just book in? It's like, shit. It's like you when you go to a restaurant, they say, "Oh, the steak's off." You go, "Have you not got chicken?" I mean, it's like, for fuck's sake. It's and like the chef's fought for it. I mean, it's like if we knew we could just get Godspeed You Black Emperor in a week's notice, we just go get Godspeed You Black Emperor. And it's like, well, we've spoken about this previously. Like, who did Ahab dropped out, and people are saying, "I'll just get Mariner, just get Cataluna and Julie Christmas doing Mariner because Julie Christmas here." And like, man, it's just fantasy stuff.
Yeah, and there's 10 of them in Godspeed as well. So it's like one of them's at a wedding or something, aren't they? So our Clash Finder goes to print and our T-shirts go to print on Friday, right? It's currently, Tuesday. So basically, I am quite focused on getting a replacement sorted in 3 days. Because then then it can go on the t-shirts and the class finder stuff, and everyone, and it will all work. Now, there were a couple of, I think it's worth just talking about. So I'm like, I'm open to being very honest here, right? There were two options open to me, and one was to bump Baroness up a slot and save myself an absolute fucking fortune and book a band that is smaller. We paid Clowncore a lot. It was like a one-off fly-in, really. So that's an option. I decided quite early on that isn't my preferred option, because I think we'll get loads of shit from people, because it will be obvious what we've done. So then you're going, okay, let's try and book a replacement that is of an appropriate size to be second from top on the main stage. It's like, fuck's sake. But it can't be any of the bands that you usually think of, because you've already tried all of them. So we can, as it currently stands, I don't know who it's going to be. I mean, I'll give you an example of the sort of thing I did. Is I emailed Mogwai's agent, and I was like, look, mate, you're also the agent for Explosions in the Sky, so this could work. And I just said to him, look, this is a mad idea, but why don't Mogwai do a second set? Do something completely different. Why don't you do a film score on the big screen? Why don't you do a B-side set? Like, just do something mad. Do your first album, I don't know, whatever. That isn't going to happen. But they did talk about it. There was a conversation where Mogwai like had a chat. Could we do this? But he's like, what he said to me this morning was, look, they're not rehearsed for any of that, and it's not that easy to just suddenly pull it out of the bag. But they were vaguely interested. So there's a bunch of chats like that happening. The one thing I want people to know is that if you're disappointed about Clowncore, you're going to be disappointed about their replacement, because you can't replace Clowncore, can you?
No.
Name me one band in the world. You can pick anyone that is a replacement of Clowncore. There just isn't one, because they are such an individual one-off thing. And let's hope they're up for doing ArcTanGent next year, because I'll certainly be trying to get them. But they're a one-off. So, you know, it could be Mogwai, it could be The Ocean. I'm just making up band names now. It could be fucking Metallica, but it is not going to be a carbon copy of Clowncore. So, you know.
Aye. So
it is what it is.
You get that yesterday. I think there's some questions as well that came up about the clinical situation, about the actual money and stuff like that, so we won't get into that, but you've got this. First off, they did clash. That's that electronic clash with Offer and Punisher, where the band they clash with, yeah. So that's quite handy if you were one of the ones that were completely torn on that whole shit they were the two kind of bands.
Which was one of the worst clashes, right?
Yeah, it was one of the worst clashes. Yeah, so it's again, the clash. First off, the clash will be filled, because you get a lot of people who goes, "Oh, thank God that clash has gone with that." All right, okay, that gives me a bit of time. They don't. That clash will be filled. A band will play the main stage on that slot, one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise you got 10,000 people trying to get in the PX3 stage, and then you're in trouble. I mean, I got a feeling. I mean, Author and Punisher have lucked out here, right? That 10. If anyone who wants to see that, they need to get there early. That's going to be the busiest show of the weekend now, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to generate the fan questions and feedback now. And you can't move Offer and Punisher into the main support slot in the main stage, because then that becomes a political argument of with Barrett or whoever is beneath that going, we're bigger than Offer and Punisher, why don't we just move up?
Yeah, exactly. Let's pick a random band name that I'm not going to book. Svalbard, right? If you book Svalbard, you'd move a couple of bands up, Baroness up, and probably Julie Christmas up, and then Svalbard would play under them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Depends what band you book. As to I'm not just putting a smaller band in the Clowncore slot.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really do that band a great deal of favours. Well, the bands need to go where they're appropriate on the bill. We can't just like. I had this discussion again to hark back to when we went in and we had Dinner Celestial Birds come in and replace my lower slot with Tusker. That was Tusker a bigger band, but it was appropriate in a level. We wouldn't have just went and get Dinner Celestial Birds and slotted them into the Ahab set. You need to be fair to Dinner Celestial Birds at the same time, and whoever they clash with. You know what I mean? It needs to be appropriate. The another thing I saw someone ask is, why don't you just give Baroness both sets? So make it this fucking 2-hour Baroness special.
Well, funnily enough, Miles from Effigy, the promoter in Bristol, who I work with a lot, is one of my best friends. He said to me yesterday, you know, that's an option. Go to Baroness and ask them if they'll do an album in full or something. But the other consideration here is that some agents are quick and some agents are slow, and some agents don't reply. And so I've very quickly gone like, you know, I sent, you know, if any agents are listening to this, they'll know if they got an email from me yesterday. If you got one, that's because I consider you to be a quick agent that might get this done for me in 3 days. And there weren't many, because I'm basically, you know, Baroness's agent look after Metallica and a load of other massive bands. I'm not criticizing them. They are not. It's not their priority to make that happen. And I think that will mean it's just not going to happen quickly. So I haven't even approached Baroness, and I'm not going to. I don't think.
And it's a weird one because it's easy to say, oh, extend Baroness's set, but when you actually think about how a day's lined out, there's a big break in the middle where an hour back. So it's not just a case of Baroness playing for 45 minutes now going to an hour and a half. It's actually going to almost fucking 3 hours, because either that or you're stopping and you're doing some weird 45-minute break in the middle and then coming back on stage. So that's a bit funky as well. We're not artists. So it's not like we're sitting there, oh, that would be easy. You just take a break and you go back on. Maybe that's not how an artist likes to present their music.
Well, it's also like asking an 800-meter runner to suddenly run a marathon as well. It's like those bands like Metallica and Iron Maiden are like freaks of nature. Bruce Springsteen, to be Foo Fighters, it's not easy to play for three hours or whatever. And you know, I don't suppose Baroness play for 2 hours ever. So
even their own headline sets.
Yeah, so that was dead in the water. There's a bunch of people came up with good ideas.
Tell me, Mark from We Lost the Sea came up with the best idea, which is, why don't you do 2 promoters, 1 pod? And that's
I need to start recognising who that is saying that.
I just remember the guy who take that, Mark Owen. He's the songwriter from We Lost the Sea. Amazing. And he presented that to the. I mean, imagine us two. The screen just changes to 2 promoters, 1 pod, and you now walk out. Main support at ArcTanGent.
We were fucking nervous going out in front of about 500 people at Trees. I don't think we're ready.
I do not think we are ready for that slot. But nice of you to say so, Mark. Nice of you to say so.
Yeah, it was. The other thing I'm going to exclusively announce is that we've had 2 other dropouts. So Earthside have dropped out and are being replaced by Blanket. And
just so I'm getting it. So I meant, did you say Earthside?
Earthside, yeah.
So they're out and been replaced by Blanket.
Blanket. So as you know, I've been always trying to shoehorn Blanket into the lineup since their album came out. So I mean, I can't get upset about Earthside because I wanted them to play and they're not available now, so they're not playing. Hopefully they'll be there next year. And then Iskander have also dropped out and they're being replaced by God Alone. So I'm pretty happy with those replacements. I'm sad that those bands have dropped out, and I will be trying to book them for next year. So yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, and it's part and parcel of organising events like Trees and ArcTanGent. I mean, we get dropouts as well. Obviously, even just been the 1 day and that amount of bands that are playing. So you just know what's going to happen. In fact, when we spoke previously and you said the Blanket were on your waiting list to get to either festival, I'm pretty sure I said at the time, we'll definitely be playing then, because you're just going to have dropouts. It's just part and parcel of every festival that happens anywhere in the world. So aye, well done for getting both of them. So, from a production point of view, I'm sure you said previously you were bringing in the screen for Clown Cross. So what's the script with? Does the screen stay, or does that get to go now? Or?
The screen, the very, very, very expensive. I can't remember how much the screen is. It's between 10 and 20 grand, which we got for Clown Court, and then we're like, because we've got it, let's keep it and get everyone else to use it. So we're in now. Matt, our production manager, messaged me today saying, "Are we ditching the screen?" And I'm like, "No, we're not ditching the screen." It's like affected the truss. It's affected the size of the stage. Half the bands have prepared to use it. I mean, basically, we're not ditching the screen. The screen is there. It's just one of those things. We were getting some specific lights in for Clown Core's set, which we have ditched. So yeah, and look, I think the final thing I'd say to people is, look, when we announce whoever it is, as I said, it's not going to be a like-for-like replacement. So just try to realise that ArcTanGent, we're supposed to be outside the box. So I think Hylung is outside the box, Clowncore is outside the box, even Electric Wizard. You know, it's not just like, there aren't just the core genres. There's a bunch of other stuff around. And I think the most likely replacement is going to come from that bunch of other stuff around, because as I said, the usual suspects I've already tried, and I'm not going back and having those conversations again.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You need to understand. I mean, I know that you're saying I'll ask the next question. I know you're saying that's the last thing to be Clowncore, but this is another Clowncore question. So, Miley Stevens, love the pod, listen every week, attended Damnation since 2012 and converted to ATG from Bloodstock and hope to return every year. Good for you, Miley. How does the payment plan? How does payment for bands work? Like the Clowncore situation, do you advance any funds ahead of the festival? Would you lose money if someone pulled out, or is it all settled after the event?
So all of my offers say in them that the band gets 50% deposit in advance. So anyone with a booking agent, that is basically, will get 50% up front. But that money gets held by the booking agent. It rarely actually goes to the band. It sits in the booking agent's sort of escrow account or whatever. Yeah. So it's just protected money just sat there. So if we've paid Clowncore a deposit, and I don't think we have yet, they will just pay us back. It's not something I'm worried about. I've had so many bands drop out over the years. We're never out of pocket. It's always a bit tricky when a band's like traveled a long way and then they miss the last ferry to get to you. And you're like, they've spent a load of money, but they haven't actually played the festival. Or we've had bands turn up like 10 minutes after their set's supposed to start. And it's like, well, you can't go on because there's not time to set up. So that's a bit tricky. And that you start thinking about, what are my morals in that situation? But have you ever had any issues, Gav?
Yeah, I've been paid back by bands that have had to. One that stands out, because you do tend to lose out on the currency exchange. So I remember sending Decapitated their full fee in 2012 before the play, which isn't always the case, but I think it was. Sometimes you'll get bands that they're saying, we're flying in, can you advance it because we want to pay the flights, we want to get the hotels, like all the different bits that you just go, right, okay, you can have the full amount because I trust the agency. But I remember that one that I get stung with a fee to send the money to Poland or Germany, and then by the time it came back to me, I get stung with a fee when I get back. So I get sent back all the money, but I lost whatever it cost me, the 5% or 2% at Halifax was the time of charging to send the thousands and thousands to one country. And then when I get back, it was short that again. So you kind of like, let's say for talk's sake, it was 10 grand, right? It wasn't, but let's say for talking it was 10 grand, you get 9.4 back. And you're like, my guy lost £600 in that deal because of what? Because a fucking plane crashed somewhere. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I don't understand why Damnation's hit, but in their case, you're just like, well, the money's back and they just move on. It's part and parcel of it. I mean, I suppose you could argue I've had agencies. I had one agency chase me for it was like 75 pence, something amongst the thing where they got, it was like 75 pence short of a $5 grand fee, and he's like, this stuff's important, we need 75 pence. And I'm like, it's going to cost me another £4.50 or something just to get it to Sweden. It's just 75 pence. Fucking absolute roaster. But I think I don't think I've ever paid that 75 pence. Maybe the only time I've ever withheld money for anyone at Damnation was that 75 pence.
Incredible. Love it.
So, right, go for it.
Question for you. From Rich Credentials. Will there be a new Damnation shirt design for ATG? And the second question, I guess, is for me, will there be a new hot sauce for ATG? So what's the deal on the Damnation?
Yeah, I mean, so what he means by that as well, so there'll be a new Damnation clothing. Like, they're not the same. They're not the same. One is a festival with a line up the back, and the other one's supposed to be streetwear. Now, Damnation clothing was started last year, and we've done a t-shirt for exclusively for Trees, the one, the Possessed one by the guy Error Design, and I believe it sold out in all sizes except like double XL. And the plan was always to try and get that done again. We haven't spoken about it. I'd love to do it again and have another Damnation clothing t-shirt at Trees. To be honest, the whole Damnation clothing project is taking a wee bit of a backseat for this podcast. Once we started the podcast, a lot of my attention that I was doing via Damnation clothing was then transferred to this pod. And I do plan at some point to get new designs in, because it went well. We sold a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's a profit-making company, you know what I mean? So it's in my best interest to get back and do it again. But I've not been reaching out to the artists to get the designs that I need to get done for it. So yes, Rich, if I can still make it happen, because time is now against us, I will. And if James allows it to happen, you allowing it to happen, James?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know who to speak to make it happen, don't you? And it isn't me. So, but yeah,
So
do it. I mean,
the plan is, yes, to get another one there. We'll have the two Promotes One Pod merch there, also coming from the same company. So yes, the plan is to make that happen. Rich, thanks for reminding me. And that sauce, James.
Yeah, there's an ATG sauce, which I know nothing about other than Lou sent me the label and I said, that looks great. Thanks, mate. So hopefully I won't forget to pick this one up like I did the 2000 Trees one. But yeah.
Okay. Elliot Brown. I was talking the other day about Sonosphere 2014 and they defiled doing a Nirvana cover set late in the evening. So if you had to book one cover band, one band, so if you had to book a band, I've had a few cervezas and a few tequilas already.
If you had to book it.
Basically, book a band to cover a legendary act, who would it be and why? Jesus, man.
Which, I love these fucking questions. So I thought about spending about 6 hours thinking about this, but I haven't. I've just gone with my gut. So I've got two for you. Converge covering Metallica would be fucking amazing. And Empire State Bastard covering the Mars Volta. Yes. I think I have won the game. But I also, just so you drink tequila, I just wanted to mention Machine Head quickly. Their cover of Battery by Metallica is absolutely amazing, and you should go and check it out.
Okay.
So have you got one for us, Gav?
Are they defiled a legendary act? Or is it a band to book?
I think they covered. This is amazing. It's only just gone midday in Mexico. The Celtic fans are having a lovely time.
See, you know what I said? I'm not going to do a drunken podcast again, and it turns out I'm just doing it for myself. You're just sitting there, knee deep in work, being a professional. Okay, would I? Because I mean, I would like. I don't like. Let's do something that's completely realistic. I would love to see them cover Nirvana, like they have done, and trust the fucking album title to escape me. Just that, because I've actually tried to book it a couple of times. I always try to book it out, but I'm trying to get now to do the Nirvana set at the Friday Night of Damnation. I think last year it never panned out. But that's what I'd like to see, because not only do I love both those bands, but their covers of them are excellent. So, that would be my answer.
Okay, I shall check that out. I've never, don't think I've ever listened to that. Okay, last question. From Glenn Baxter is curious as to how many tickets have sold for Trees already before any band announcements. Are the headliners for Trees already locked in? So no, the headliners are not locked in. Close on one, but we'll see about that. The sales have been. It's hard to answer this question without sounding like you're lying, but the sales have been wild. We've sold 50% of our tickets, which is fucking unbelievable in a week. So it's the most we've ever done. VIP tickets are pretty much sold out. Honestly, this is the truth. If you want to have a VIP ticket, then go and buy one today. They are going to sell out. 4-day tickets, which is the Wednesday, are very nearly sold out, which takes a lot of pressure off me on the Wednesday booking. But yeah, I mean, it's the best post-event sales we've ever had. I mean, 50% of our tickets.
Yeah, mate, congratulations. And you know what they say, and what you've always said about the weather. I mean, just can you imagine? Like that was some miracle shit that happened in between, because I showed up in a swamp, and you were driving about showing me the worst bits of your swamp, and the weather forecast was not predicting it to be nice over the weekend. And then from almost the second that the festival started, I mean, I don't know if it got wet into the Friday, Saturday, but the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it was fucking glorious. I was like, honest to God, we walked into your main site on the... So did I get the Tuesday night? Because it went, no, the Tuesday, but then even on the Wednesday, because the main site isn't open on your main stage isn't open on the Wednesday. And you were saying, everything will be fine, everything will be fine. I was looking at how bad the conditions were anywhere anyone had walked in. I mean, inside the site looked good, but I was like, it's going to take 2 hours, James, before this is a swamp. And you should know this because you have seen more swamps than anybody. And like, oh man, I'd love to have this optimism, the optimism this game. And then the 2 days after it was perfect. In fact, it gets so warm that the swamp started to become, like the hardened mud. It just becomes that spongy hardened. It was so warm that places that you could literally drown in a couple of days before were walkable. It was like, I've never seen anything like it. I started pulling trainers at the bag that I would never thought would ever come at the bag by the time we could have that podcast. The wellies came off. I was like, this is fucking unbelievable. So you've said before that really shitty wet weather ArcTanGent, which I know that the joke is now they're all like that, but was really putting dampener on sales for you because people just leave with such a like, I don't know if I can do that again. But the sunny ones do the opposite of that. You leave in such a high, you're like, I'm not missing it. I'm not missing that festival next year. I'm getting my tickets right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible for, I mean, trees, we didn't ever announce this year, but we basically sold out. So we got right to a sellout. But I didn't want to do that like last week, we've sold out thing. It looks like a massive lie. So we didn't do it. But there's essentially a sellout is our biggest ever year. But people know it's not going to sell out in like a day. So to have that support of everyone to buy in the first week is really fantastic. Feels good. We've got like the 6 of us that organise the festival have got our own little WhatsApp group, and most of the week it's just Si sending us sales graphs of like, fucking hell, we've passed this milestone, we passed this milestone. So yeah, feels good. So yeah, thanks for asking, Glenn.
And shout out to Si, who you kindly introduced me to after knowing him after knowing the guy for 15 fucking years. Gav, this is Si, this is Gav. I'm glad I'm not the only person that does this to people who know each other very well.
Yeah, I've forgotten he's been to Damnation a bunch of times, hasn't he? Yeah.
He has. But a legend there, boy. It was good to catch up with him and properly meet all the organisers. I know I knew bits and bobs of them, but it was nice to have a proper chat with everyone, and the team was excellent. I'm sorry I only got to see Sarah for that brief moment where she came on, presented us some Jack Daniels and hot sausages and tills, and then left again. So I'm hoping to see.
We were a bit like shell shocked then, I think, weren't we? We were still deer in the headlights at that point, so we didn't quite realise what Sarah had done, which was brought us a lovely and quite funny little package of towels and hot sauces and stuff.
Yeah.
Have you already said this? You were chucking them out into the crowd, weren't you? But they were supposed to go back to the merch tent.
No, the hot sausages that Lou had brought when we were chucking out was absolutely fine and dandy. Now, I think he brought enough for the questions that were asked. So I don't know, it was 8 questions. He brought 8 hot sausages. And then I just started chucking out the rest of them. And so by the way, the hot sausages have to go back to the merch. Well, too late for that. You've got to go and fight who the fuck's got them.
Which brings us nice. Go on.
On you go. Brian, you're running the show here, mate. You're running the show.
Brings us on to a lovely segue, which just to talk about 2000 Trees now. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is just like sort of just to reflect back on how we felt like the live podcast went. And Andrew Goodberry has got a question for us, which was, apart from James being brush shamed by his mum and the mention of apples, very funny, Andrew, do you prefer live or pre-recorded pods? What's the answer to that, Gav?
I mean, it's hard not to say how special the live podcast was, because these podcasts are done. I can come on to some, not nerves is the wrong word, but I come on to where I know that we're on now and we're not editing this, so I don't want to come across like a clown. I don't want to be boring. So I'm coming on. I've got a nervous enthusiasm for when I'm coming on and doing these pods with yourself. So it's not like I'm just coming on here and it's like just having a conversation with my gran in the living room. So I come on to some of these like, right, okay, I know what we're going to do here. We've got a plan in place. I hope it's a good one. So there is a wee bit of anticipation of that, but it's nothing like live pod. I mean, when you said there about the rabbit and the headlights, I mean, I was okay. I thought an hour before, and I was okay. I thought like half an hour before, but when it started to get that 5-minute call, and I was nervously making notes, and we were pacing up, then it started to make a bit of sense to it because the temp was filling up. And they're like, shit, the tent is actually full. And then there's people sitting outside the tent. Like, fucking hell, we've only been doing this 4 months. And it's And people are now giving up the chance to see 4 other bands, and a lot of decent bands playing at the same time with Static Dress and No Bro, and your Sean McGowan about to start, or Shane McGowan if it's Shane. Did I pronounce it right? No.
Sean.
So you're a bit like, it's a lot. So then when you're going out, so much it happens in and almost like this nervous excitement. When I listen back to it, I squirm listening back to that pod because you can hear my nervous laugh. Like I felt like that's I wasn't a fake laugh. It was a genuinely nervous, like shit, what's happening next laugh that I was doing. And a lot of people won't know. Maybe you don't even know yourself. Is when you were getting more and more comfortable into the hour, I was getting more and more nervous because I had the whole episode planned. It was because you'd say I've got no notes. I'm not going to be like, well, this is even almost going to be like a co-host. So like you're going to fill every gap, Gavin, because I'm running a goddamn festival. So when I realised that the notes I thought were going to take us, usually when we're more relaxed and less amped up, an hour to get through like 20 minutes, I was like, shit, this is proper on the spot. You can hear me going, say stuff like machine head just out of nowhere. It's because I'm fucking nervous and don't know what else to say. And you're just sitting having a rare old time at this point, like, oh, this is great, let's overrun. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know if this is total car crash TV or if we're actually putting a good pod here, because it was just like weird things like where was on the record? I should have still done it on the record.
Do you know what? Yeah.
And the nerves of it all was like other bits and bobs that in my head is I should have done better note prep because I think as we were pulled off and when I'd done the Damnation Versus, I didn't have much notes, but we can have a conversation that can flow quite well. And I don't know, I think the nerves get caught me, and there was stuff that I wanted to ask, like, oh, you've got Simon Neil here this weekend, so what are you going to do about the whole try to get the Biffy power? They're just completely, and the rabbit headlight bit completely fucking thing. But when you come off, you're buzzing. And you and I said a couple of times that night, oh, we need to get a chat, like a proper chat, like how'd that go? Which still at this point we've never done. This is the first time we're actually talking about.
Yeah.
This is it on the podcast. So it was.
We lost each other during Manchester Orchestra, didn't we? And that was the last we saw each other.
And that was it. Now I think thankfully, I sent a message at 1 o'clock to you and Marshall, my friend that was there with, saying, where are you guys? And I'm welcome. But neither you were away party night. Marshall had already been to his bed. So by the time I got up the next day, I was very fresh because I was in my bed and rested that day. And I saw you and I was like, you're a man who looks like he was up for a long time.
Yeah, I was.
So, to answer this question, from my point of view, it's hard to compare to a live podcast. And we've got ArcTanGent coming up, if that's an all success, and then should we go down the live tour route and people show up to those shows, it's going to be hard to ever beat that because there is a real connection there with that. One thing that surprised me the most, and still surprised me most as we discuss this right now, people talk about the podcast like it's hilarious. I laugh from start to finish. Oh, you two are hilarious. Like, it's putting me back to, I'm not trying to be funny. I am not trying to be funny. So then I'm thinking like, oh shit, this podcast is supposed to be funny. At ArcTanGent, we need to say something funny. Then you realise, I don't know anything funny. Like, I'm not a comedian. I don't have any planned material. So if I hear a Scouser's accent, I go, shit, he gave me that. Just comes to me at that moment. It's not like I'm getting that tangent thinking, shit, James, so he's supposed to be a comedy podcast as well, because I don't think we're comedians. So that's a pressure as well.
Yeah. It's. I mean, my answer to the question is I'm really enjoying the pre-recorded pods at the moment, and the live. It's going to take some getting used to because I've done those on-stage things so many times at both festivals, and this was nothing like any of those times. I've never really been nervous before. I just walk out and I answer some questions on someone else's podcast, and if it's shit, it's shit. And also because they're always in the morning, you're like, fuck, the alarm's gone off, run to the shower, get there, just get on stage. And whereas we had all day to just like, I kind of work myself up throughout the day, and people, you keep seeing people and they'll be like looking forward to the pod, and then I thought, to calm myself down, I went out into the crowd to chat to some friends and family before it came on, which didn't help me actually, because I realised that everyone I fucking knew was there. So, yeah, and the one thing I wish someone had said to me is that it's going to feel different, and the reason it's going to feel different is because you're not going to know whether you're talking to Gav or you're talking to the audience. Whereas at the moment, I am talking to you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not really talking to the audience. I know they're listening, but I'm talking to you. Whereas the podcast, that really threw me. I didn't know where to look.
Yeah.
And, it's different when someone asks you a question in the audience. You can look at them, but the first 20 minutes of me and you chatting, I was just like, it was pretty intense. And I think
Yeah.
my friends, anyone that knew me could tell I was nervous, definitely. But
The-
I think it's
the-
okay to admit that.
There's a weird bit. There's a weird bit. So I got to start, and then for whatever reason, you'd said, "I'll go out first because I'm furthest away in the chair," and then you come out because then the two of us, it looks rather than you going out, and then it looks like I'm almost waiting for you to present you. But then there was some sort of issue with the audio that wouldn't go louder, and we were at that point like up to high door, like fuck it, we'll just go out. But then when I came out, I'm like, ArcTanGent, we go, and trees, we go, and then they go again. Right, there's this amazing pop to start it, but you're completely like, it's like you're watching the worst episode of EastEnders ever. Like you look bored because you're just standing there, you can, and you just, I guess it's that state of shit. What are we doing? Like where is this going?
Because you've come on like fucking Ozzy Osbourne and given it the big one. Fucking no, you're Bruce Dickinson. Scream for me, download, and I'm like, fucking hell. Yeah,
mate,
it was a trip
mate.
and a half. It really was.
It was a lot. It was a lot to get through, but I mean, listen, comedians, not the way, but anyone who goes and shows like they talk about these hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of a stagecraft. Basic things like that, completely like how far do you hold your mic away? You were quite close, and I was quite at one point. I think somebody said I looked like I was playing a recorder. It's like as if I was terrified of the microphone. It's like remembering the stuff that you're doing. Like I'm getting up and I'm walking away from the mic to throw away fucking hot sausage. At the same time, I'm still posting a podcast that's going to go to Spotify. And I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that people are like, you know what you're getting. You know exactly what you're getting. These two guys are going up there, they're festival promoters. This is not pre-rehearsed. This is not. They're going out and they're giving you what's on their mind in that moment. And sometimes it'll be good and sometimes it'll be fucking brilliant. But it was like, by the end, I definitely get more nervous as it was going on because I had no control over where it was going and I had no endpoint. I had no notes to fall back into. And my biggest fear, even when I'm just doing these things, is silence. And I've getting better. And if you go back and you listen to the first podcast or the ones done with Damnation Versus, I'm terrible for trying to fill every single gap. Even when I don't want to, even I just feel like, shit, I need to jump in here, help the conversation. Whereas now because of the chemistry of us two chatting, I've got much more comfortable knowing that you will come in. I don't need to fill every single gap. So there was bits in that one I was like, what's next? And you've got no control over the questions as well. Somebody asks you a really shit question, we've got a lot of good questions. Somebody asks you a real shite one, you're kind of stuck for the next 5 minutes just answering some fucking drivel as well. So
I nearly walked off stage when that first question came on and I didn't understand a word of it. I was just like, I am fucked here. Just not understand anything that they said at all. I was so glad you made a joke because I was just like, I don't know what to do.
it was funny because
we're doing
we
a
held it
Q&A,
back.
You're going to say pardon on the first question in a really serious way, whereas you just basically ripped the piss and it was good.
It was good. It was good. Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm looking forward to ArcTanGent. It's a weird one as well because I thought ArcTanGent more a home crowd for us. Well, I just feel that the Trees audience have embraced this podcast as well. Clearly, I mean, they filled the tent and then outside to come and see it. But we were clashing with a bunch of good popular bands. Now the only difference with ArcTanGent is, are people going to get out their bed at time? But we're not clashing with it. Yeah. So really, we're clashing with sleep or hangovers. So it's like we're filling in our tent because people can be asked to get out of their beds and into that tent for 10 a.m. And if they can, then it sounds like it's going to be another popular one.
Yeah, we'd really appreciate it if they do. The weather's important to us because if we get it sunny, then they'll definitely be out of bed. If it's raining, that's a bit more tricky. But yeah, it would be really nice to pack the tent out again. So yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
So yes, that was the pod debrief, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone turned out. Thank you to Sarah for the lovely gesture. Thank you to all the organisers who took the time to come and watch it as well. I mean, even having your mum and dad there, that was excellent. I mean, that level of support for everyone involved in that sort of Trees community was there. They seemed to be everywhere, like as you say. I mean, and that was one of the faces I knew. So I can only imagine what it was like for you to look at and see pretty much everyone you knew.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too cheesy on you, but I feel like I'm not going to forget that for a long time. It was like a real, like a life experience to have a tent. It's like half the tent is people I knew, half the tent is people that like our podcast that I don't know. Both are equally mad things. But it was great.
To look at and see.
Yeah.
And pod two, we'll try to be a little less rabbits in the headlights and get a bit more appreciation of what's happening in front of us.
Yeah. So let's talk now. I kind of wanted there to be a total disaster happened at the festival, so it could be a story that we talked about, but there kind of wasn't really. So I thought we've spent a lot of time on this podcast trying to let people into our brains of what it's like being a promoter. So I just thought it was worth really. A lot of people said to me this week, like, how was trees? You know, my neighbours or people at the school gates. How did the festival go? And my answer is, the punters, mostly 99% of them had a great time. So in that regard, the festival went brilliantly. The bands had a great time. So in that regard, the festival went brilliantly. Everyone I talked to is saying nice things, but for the organising team, it was a much more stressful trees than normal. I wasn't quite my usual relaxed self. Usually I don't do any work or any thinking really once the festival's going on, but the mud in setup and break. We talked about the Gaslight Anthem, didn't we, about how their truck wouldn't come into the site, and I found out at 7 a.m. Thursday morning. I had this thing with Don Broco where I was driving, I was giving some friends a lift up the hill, up to the campsite in my buggy, as Don Broco's lighting truck and was backing down. It was about 8 p.m. backing down to the main stage to load onto the stage, and a guy stopped me and basically somebody had blocked the road with somebody had blocked the road with a couple of vehicles, and Don Broco couldn't get down to the main stage. And she was saying to me, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" And I was like, well, basically, these vehicles have got to move. I don't care how you move them. Put a forklift telehandler truck thing through the window if you have to, pick it up and chuck it out the way. But I'd gone from like really relaxed driving my friends up the hill to being like, what do you mean Don Broco's lights can't get to the main stage? So literally just somebody parking in the wrong place had like just caused a massive amount of like stress and anxiety. And I felt like that was like, there was anxiety just hanging around some of the organising team for the whole festival because of the mud that we'd seen in setup. And it just felt like it was going to come back and hurt us at some point. It never did. I don't like, am I even explaining that?
I mean, and it's good because it's one of these ones, like, it's the displacement of the festival site with the mud, isn't it? Because if you've got like these properly cut up sections behind backstage, you might add a bit where you just expected 3 or 4 cars to park, which is now a bit of a swamp and no one's taking a car in it. So suddenly these cars are parked in some ridiculous spot where a truck can't get past. And there was wee bits like that you would see backstage. I mean, we walked to what might have been Manchester Orchestra backstage, and it was just a fucking truck stuck behind backstage as well. Just these wee things just happened to be. Everything in front of the house just seems so fucking perfect and pleasant. Where backstage you were just seeing the build up and the issues of some of the mud. Even when it was dry, you were seeing some of the after effects of the mud being there that just were having knock-on effect. Like you sitting that first night, ordering at $5,000 worth of trackway in the morning, waking up and being $5,000 less successful in the budget sheet just because that night had been a shit show.
Yeah, so we've got some quite big changes that we're gonna as a punter that's coming to the festival, you probably won't really notice, but there's quite big changes that we're going to make backstage next year to make all those problems go away, rain or shine. I think as I mentioned on the live pod, you know, we hadn't had a wet year for 12 years, and I think we were reminded that wet years are hard, and we're double the size we were 12 years ago, and it was pretty tough behind the scenes, but you know, not that bad in the general scheme of things. I also just wanted to touch on like some customer complaints, because I think we're why did we do this podcast? So that we can talk directly to the people that come to our festivals, and we can show them that we're just normal people, independent. We're not like some big horrible corporation. So my brother Rob deals with all the complaints himself. So basically there is a director / owner of the business that sees every single complaint that gets sent to 2000 Trees, of which every year there'll be a couple of hundred, which will range from, you know, a member of staff was rude to me to the queues were too long at the toilets, whatever. Every, you know, I'm sure you get this at Damnation, and I'm sure that you're the man who replies to them probably. But
yeah, in most cases, yeah.
So just wanted to, so in all those complaints, there are usually themes, and the complaints that we care about the most are where there are themes, as in lots of more than one person is complaining about the same thing. So across sort of social media and email complaints, the things that I think I would like to just quickly mention is the Axium stage. The second stage does need to be a bit bigger. It was arguably too busy for Hot Mulligan, Creeper,
Boston Manor.
Boston Manor, yeah, and probably a couple of others. Is a tricky one because we talked about where the tent walls go. I'd close that tent more than normal to make the atmosphere better. Now, it definitely worked. The atmosphere was better, and I think I'm going to do it for Yokai. It's the same tent at ArcTanGent, because when you close it, you keep the daylight out, and it really makes the atmosphere better. My tip for people is you've got to squeeze your way in, because there was always room in there. Like my dad said to me, I couldn't get in for Creeper. My mate said to me, I couldn't get in for Creeper. And I went backstage, nipped around the pit barrier, and there was loads of room. So yeah, it's like it's the back of the tent, which is busy.
Yeah, I mean that's you might as well just accept as a promoter. You're almost never changing it. I mean, we had it for the Riley Smith Hall at Damnation, where you'd sit up in the seats. The amount of times that we had queues going at the door, people getting in, and then you looked in every single time of every single show. You could stand at both sides, close to the stage with your hands out and no touch a person. Yeah, everybody just stops. They get into that wee bit of spot. They don't want to push past the first person, and it's almost like a traffic jam. It just pants it. So it's a bit. I don't know how you'd ever get through to an audience that you just. People sometimes the reaction is that we just don't want to push in. We just don't want to push in. I mean, so it's one of those fucking problems that just never seems to go away.
Yeah, so a bigger Axiom would be good. Although it did mean some really electric atmospheres, as you talked about on Hot Mulligan, because it's just like, I mean, we'll talk about bands in a minute, but Creeper, fucking hell. I mean, I was just loving it so much. The next one is the VIP camping, which people have suggested was oversold. I mean, it wasn't oversold. What we made a slight error in calculation between how much space we needed for parking and how much space we needed for campsite. And I think if we had our time again, we'd do it slightly differently. The VIP camping didn't feel VIP enough as an experience. I think I agree with people, it didn't feel VIP enough. And we're going to look at how we can change that. There were phone thefts. I mean, seriously, this happens at every festival now, and people need to put in their own measures. I'd really encourage people coming to ArcTanGent to make it so that people can't steal your phone, basically. And we'll be doing a post on our socials before the festival, just like we did for 2000 Trees, saying, you know, people buy a ticket to the festival, they come in. It's not like they're breaking in, they come in and then they steal 10 phones and they've made back more than the cost of their ticket. And that happens a lot. So I'm really sorry that happened to people, but it is a thing that happens at lots of festivals now. And the last one is just seeing quite a lot of people mentioning on social media about the toilets and the shower queues. So it's really tough. I've talked about toilet numbers before on this podcast, and how like I felt sorry for Download, because if you've got, let's say there's, you know, camping at Trees, there's about like 11,000 people camping. So in the morning in the campsite, the queues are mad for the toilets. But how many toilets do you think you have to have when everyone wakes up at, let's say, 8 a.m.? How many toilets do you think you'd need to have no queues? It's actually really hard to have enough toilets. They're empty most of the day, and then there's a queue. So we're looking at that, but I don't know.
What's the situation? So we found that really, I mean, we skew heavily into the male direction, like 80-20 split. We stick some urinals in, and you just seem to just obliterate our queues, because so many people just need a pee. So many men just need a pee. So is that something that you guys? I mean, I'm not trying to teach out with Peter, but is that something you guys have got there? Are you already taking care of the needs of men needing a pee, so you're not having to sit in a queue with some poor woman who has no fucking choice but to use the cubicle?
Yeah, the majority of the majority of the banks of Portaloos also have a cordoned off area with urinals in. Did you see them at the festival at all?
I never saw them. I went into the VIP at one stage, so I went through and just have a look, and I noticed, like, as I walked through, there was a queue of Portaloos there, with a huge queue, and they had showers at the other side. And I mind thinking at the time, even though at this point I'm sitting drunk at 12 o'clock at night, if there was just one or two urinal points there, you'd probably wipe out half that queue of everyone no one to just go pee in a bush.
Yeah, see, we have got loads of those urinals where you stand with 4 people facing each other.
Yeah.
But you have to put them behind a screen, really.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Yeah.
you don't. And the problem is they're behind a screen. So yeah.
That becomes its own thing.
ArcTanGent, there will be lots of urinals. So yeah, use them. So yeah, that's it. Look, we really appreciate people's feedback. And like I say, Rob puts a lot of time into answering and talking to the customers. And we try and make the festival better every year, and it will be better next year. It always is, I think. And then the thing that I really want to talk about is the bands.
Yes.
Because that's what gets me excited. I watched 53 bands this year at 2000 Trees, which I was a bit disappointed with. I can get into the 80s at ArcTanGent easy, but 53 is not bad. So my sets of the weekend were number one set of the weekend. I'm really fucking happy to say was Unpeople.
Okay.
Because I've talked about them on the pod a bunch, and they were absolutely brilliant. So they've got one EP out. The cave was packed. So let's say, I don't know, 1,500 people, 2,000 people. A third of the people were singing the words. I was stood with my mates Scotty and Rob. We were singing the words, and there's a mosh pit, and it's like, this band's got one EP.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a total triumph. They were fucking great. You should. I don't know if it'll be the same at ArcTanGent, whether or not the audience will embrace them in the same way, but because it's very happy and catchy for ArcTanGent.
Yeah, I can't. There's no way. There's no way they could possibly, even if they just. I don't think you can transfer. I think it'd be popular at ArcTanGent, but I don't think you can try. I haven't seen that energy for so long. It's so many different festivals. I just can't see that energy. If that was the same energy I saw Hot Mulligan and Spanish love songs and your Boston Manners, I don't know how would you transfer that for any other festival. Maybe a slam dunk. Maybe I don't know if that beat slam dunk. But imagine if you were getting somewhere, you were going to have that enthusiasm for a band of levels that I've seen. I'm like, it'd be tough. It's a tough ask.
That's amazing to hear. I mean, and that night, I was backstage at Empire State Bastard, and their manager was there, who also manages Biffy Clyro, and he also manages Unpeople, and he'd missed their set, and I was saying to him, like, it's not normal. When do you see a band that's got one EP out where everyone's singing the words and the tent is packed? I just don't think it's normal. Like, I think they're special. Like, people have, and I'm one of them. That EP is fucking great. So, I mean, yeah. And like, often when the bands you get excited for are not actually your favourite sets of the weekend. So a bunch of these that I'm going to say now, the next one I wasn't excited for, but Unpeople was really great. Next on the list is Don Broco. I mean, curveball for me, because I've never listened to them as a band. They're absolutely fantastic live. They gave me Enter Shikari vibes for how polished and professional and how amazing a show they put on. And unlike every other band that's tried to do fireworks at 2000 Trees, they fucking pulled it off. And it was like, it wasn't exactly Metallica, but it was big fucking fireworks. And
you'd mentioned, just to cut in the fireworks bit, because you'd mentioned before about, you get to like a week out and people tell you about fireworks. And I noticed that one of the comments in the post might have been on the Trees or the ArcTanGent, it's one of the other forums, was saying, can you ask James about the fireworks? Because it's almost like you alluded to that might be an issue for you, or you might not be able to do fireworks at Upcote Farm, and then ultimately you did. So is there a story behind that?
Well, they didn't really give us all the health and safety paperwork until like pretty much the day of the show. And because there's trees and stuff, they almost had to come and scope it out and work out, because they launched the fireworks. Some of them were on the front lip of the stage, but some of them were behind the stage. being lifted up by a vehicle really high in the air. So I got a radio call from Rob Safety, who we've talked about before, and I say, when you get a call from Rob, it's always fucking bad news. It's like, I really like Rob. He's so great at his job, but it's always like,
I'm still with you.
Just getting the tequila glass, I think.
I get my beer.
He's usually got bad news about the weather or something, and he radioed me saying, "Good news, James. I've just spent half the day with Don Broco's people, but we are doing the fireworks tonight." So it was like, I thought it was a real success. They were absolutely brilliant live. I watched the whole thing and I really enjoyed it. And I honestly don't think I know any of their songs, including the ones that have been listened to like 40 million times. I just don't. They're just not a band I listen to. They were in the at the end of the day, we have a party on the Saturday night with all the crew in the backstage bar. So there's a little bit of music industry people, but it's mostly just friends and crew. And we stay up really late. And I just said to Don Broco, you know, fancy coming over for a drink? We'd love to see you. And they were like, okay, cool, thanks. And I didn't really think they would. And then they came over and I happened to be at the bar and I was like, would you like a White Russian? And they were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, it's 2000 Trees tradition. So they had like 8 White Russians, them and their crew. And then we gave them a bar tab and I left the bar at 4 a.m. and Don Broco was still in there having a cracking time. And I really like that. Most bands, you know, they come in, it's just another festival and they're gone. You know, most big bands. I mean, I'm not criticizing them, but do Opeth or Devon Townsend really care where they are? I don't know if they do, but Don Broco, like, they embraced it. So big brownie points to them. A couple of others I wanted to mention. Frank Turner was absolutely amazing. Played a really great set of the hits. I sent you the video, Gav, which my friend Tamsin very kindly videoed of him giving me and the podcast a shout out from the stage, and then playing the song I'd requested. So
that was a moment. Cool. So where were you? Were you upside stage at that moment?
No, I was in the crowd. And I'm not.
Lovely.
Honestly, I'm not. I like to think I'm cool, maybe, but I'm not too cool to. Like, I was like tearing up when he's like, you know, we love 2000 Trees. We went on James' podcast and he took the piss out of us a bit, didn't he? He's like, of course he's got a podcast.
Everybody's got a fucking podcast.
But yeah, but then he played that song and it was a real moment. So that was great. Last ones is, if I haven't mentioned it before, I fucking love Creeper. They were amazing. I was with my wife. She said to me, "This is shit," and she left. So we didn't agree. It was like being transported into 1983. It was like, it's proper Judas Priest cheese, but it's amazing. And last but not least, Empire State Bastard were fucking great. And anyone that knows me will know that I was absolutely gutted last year when Dave Lombardo didn't turn up to ArcTanGent, because we've been told he was going to be there, and I found out on the day that he wasn't there. And Dave Lombardo from Slayer, you either care or you don't. And a lot of people are like, who cares? He's a drummer, I don't care. And I'm like, it's fucking Dave Lombardo, I really care.
Yeah.
And as I've said before, I don't want to do lots of fanboying over bands, and I don't really do it, but I did want to meet Dave Lombardo. And I watched him from the side of the stage just to see him battering the shit out of his kit. It was great. They came off stage, they got straight in a taxi. And Mike from the band came over to me and he's like, "Do you want to meet Dave before we go?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." And then we had a little like 2-minute chat and a photo with me and Dave. And that, I don't care if I sound like a 15-year-old. That made me very fucking happy. He was so nice. He's just so nice. Everyone says he's nice, and it turns out he is nice.
He is.
So look, honourable mentions to Dead Pony, Spanish Love Songs, 2 sets, Meryl Streep, Grandson, and Delilah Bond. They were my highlights. I just saw so much good stuff. Do you have any highlights you'd like to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know what? It's weird because you go to something. It's like when your favourite band's there, your expectations are almost too high in a sense. So you go see Manchester Orchestra be good at being Manchester Orchestra. It's like, well, that's what they do. But they did have some sound issues. They did have some issues with us. And they're also not the most powerful band on such a big stage. I mean, they're probably that emotionally, they're probably better in a smaller. So I enjoyed them a lot, but it's difficult then to compete with Spanish love songs and smaller stage with everyone losing their mind. I mean, singing every word back, 2,000 crowd surfers going over the top. I assume a huge mosh pit in the middle of it as well. These songs when I'm first listening to the thing, like, I'm saying to you, like, they're not a Kerrang band, and you're laughing at me saying, Gav, you know so little, mate, you know so little. And then you're watching, like, fuck man, this is actually a rock band. It is a rock band. You hear the first couple of songs, like, this is their rock band, but live, it's emotionally powerful, it's energetically powerful, the fan base are just, I mean, Hot Mulligan, it'd be unfair to say they were a highlight in the sense I only went in to see one or two songs, and the whole time I stood facing the crowd almost, just like watching this crowd scream every single word back, and I'm like, this is unreal. But for me, see, who was the first silent band?
Cody Frost.
Cody Frost. I said that in the podcast. There was a bit that I just sort of completely separated from where I was and what I was doing. I was just absolutely transfixed in a set for like 10 minutes watching this Cody Frost. I know fucking jack shit about nothing about it. I was like, this is incredible. It took again, that was another one that took me a wee bit to get into I think it's very technically quite difficult to get your shit together, even as musicians doing it and be like, shit, I can't actually hear, I've got a set of headphones on here. And just everybody being so into it. Loved them, loved Dead Pony, who I caught at the Forest stage, loved Meryl Streep. The whole Meryl Streep experience was even better because I only really just discovered him the time that I mentioned in the podcast, maybe 3 months ago. And then meeting him before he came out and him not recognising me and no vice versa. And then the guy for Gallows saying, oh, so then we're watching it with the guy for Gallows, and then him being fucking class anyway. And I'm not sure if he came to see the podcast or not, but he was at the back of the stage when the podcast finished. So when I walked out, he was, he says, like, oh, what's the crack? And I'm like, oh, brilliant, this is the big man cheering. That's when I managed to get a picture of him, because at that point I was in cloud nine. So it was that was fantastic. Who else did I see that day? Because I felt like everyone I saw either enjoyed them because the music was great, or I enjoyed them because the atmosphere was so fucking good you couldn't not enjoy being part of the experience. But I did feel like Exit Child was the first fucking thing. So I thought she was like a crazy Julie Christmas. You know what I mean? Like proper, that possessed spirit. When you see somebody on stage and they're in their own head at the time of doing it. And it's like, it doesn't really matter if there's 10 people out there or 10,000. You're just part of their journey. And I saw Exit Child. I thought, I mean, for there, right through to the final band that I saw on that, which I mean, I gave it was Better Lovers. When we watched Better Lovers, absolutely what you'd expect from that band. And then when it across, caught a bit of gaslight Anthem, who I gave shit in the pod for no other reason than because it was funny. And they were perfectly fine too.
Did we watch Better Lovers together?
We were watching a bit of Better Lovers, and you were like, I'm going to go, you tapped me the show and said, I'm going to go check out Gaslight Anthem. And I was like, I think you were buying into my joke as well, that this band was some sort of shit. And I was like, I've never even heard a single song. They might be my favourite band in the world. I mean, when you go, I'll go with you now. I'll check out a bit of them as well. But that's when we lost each other. I think you went up on stage. I went to check out the VIP bit with one of your friends, a guy who was in some band. In fact, it's his name, isn't it? James Lockley.
Oh, Jim Lockie, yeah. Jim Lockie. Yeah.
Jim Lockley. So I ended up fucking away with him. And that was the last time I saw you. The next thing I know, it was the following day, and I was getting up. My good friend Marshall was taking me to the airport they take me to the train station to get a bus. That was a fucking, I mean, talk about the boring bit of this podcast. Trying to get home in the middle of the train strikes, cancellations, IT delays. It took me fucking forever to get home. And at the same time, I'm seeing my phone, everybody enjoyed 2000 G's. And I'm like, I'm fucking the 5th delayed train in a row on the train. Like, I'm trying to get somewhere to get back to Glasgow. And you guys are not having the fucking best time ever. So that was I enjoyed almost every scene. And I'd have loved to have seen Frank Turner. And I would have went and checked out Creeper. And I'd have loved to have seen a bunch of other bands over that weekend as well. I'm sure I'd have loved.
Amazing. Well, get it in the diary for next year, mate. Book your holiday a week later.
Yeah, because what I want to do, because you know what, fair play to your team as well. I don't know if this is a lot of Rob and Dan's doing, but the amount of kids areas and kid-friendly areas. Now, obviously, I've got a 6-year-old daughter who would, I mean, we're all coming to ArcTanGent. We're going the whole it's a family trip to ArcTanGent. But When I saw that, I said to my wife when I came back, I mean, not only is the music more gentle and more bands that the whole family could go and enjoy. If you've got like a Boston Manor or a Dead Pony, it's hard to dislike. I mean, it's not like listening to Napalm Death or Big Dance Draw, but it's easy to dislike if you don't like that kind of extreme music. But the areas where you could see, like, I could see Charlotte in my head just running about having the time of my life at Trees, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then make that space. Because tell you, my daughter's having a good time at a festival. My wife is having a good time at a festival, you know what I mean? So, next year, hopefully get down and make it a full trip.
Yes, lovely, great.
Talking about next year, is that how you want to wrap this up? Put any plans, anything new for next year? Or do you feel like you addressed that when things get better when you're having that chat before?
Yeah, I mean, I think because Breakdown was so hectic, it's still to be discussed amongst a lot of us. I think size-wise, the festival will stay the same. I mean, we are now, for the first time ever, I said to Si today, we're going to sell out, aren't we? It's weird. It's like, just to be, I don't mean the first time we've ever sold out, but it's the first time I've ever said after a week with no bands.
This is happening.
Yeah. So I think we'll probably keep it the same size. We're going to look at some production stuff. So I don't think we really want to change the punters experience too much, but the backstage experience, we will definitely tweak, and it will probably move some of the stages a bit. I suspect the new stage might move a little bit to a different location, but we'll see. So it's a bit of a watch this space, I think. So yeah, it felt like although it was stressful, a very, very positive year. And, thanks to everyone for coming, and, thanks to you for coming as well, Gav. It was fun. We had some fun.
It was fun. I mean, the only regret's not getting to do the final 2 days. So I'll make sure that my wife doesn't book Mexico, right, slap bang in the middle of it, and we will come down and we'll do that. You are the band booker. You've already said in this podcast that you don't have the headliners locked in for next year, but do you have some exciting bands locked in? Are you feeling good about the lineup for next year?
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of stuff confirmed, some really exciting bookings, and there's a couple of mad. Nearly gave you a hint. Now I'm not going to give you a hint. There's a couple of mad bands that are about to confirm. The agents have said to me this is happening, which people will be really excited for, and excellent. They will not expect it. That's the closest I can give you on a clue. But yeah, it's all to play for. It's always all to play for at this stage. September, as we'll no doubt talk about in the podcast, all I'll be doing is band booking. So yeah. So yeah,
okay.
We're gonna on the record it.
On the record, well, I feel like I am definitely unprepared for that. Now I'm thinking through my head as you're chatting there. Do you know? You're probably not the best person to this. Do you know if I've suggested a Manchester Rockers track before? I feel like I have.
I'm sure you have. You must have.
But you tell me you're on the record while I think of an on the record.
Okay, amazing. So I am gonna choose Sonata, which is, I think, spelled Sunnata. They just released a new album called Chasing Shadows. They are a much more spacey, proggy version of like Alice in Chains. Super interesting. They really regularly have to look and check that it hasn't flicked over to Alice in Chains, because the vocals and the harmonies are definitely there. They're playing Yokai Stage this year at ArcTanGent at 12:45 on Saturday, and I really like them. I really like their last album. I really like this new one that's just come out, and I don't think that many people know who they are. So I've put them on our second stage because I think they're fucking great. So check them out, Sonata.
Okay, done. I don't know if I'm just gonna stick with Manchester Rockers. What came to me, it's what we've been talking about. And if you get a second Manchester Rockers chart in the 4 or 5 hours worth of misery, we've got it up playlist and fair play. You're getting it. So if I have suggested Where Have You Been, I will suggest I Can Barely Breathe. Is it I Can Barely Breathe? I think it is, isn't it? I Can Barely Breathe. Maybe fuck this up royally. And if it's vice versa, I'm suggesting Where Have You Been? The Manchester Rockers at this point, you know exactly what you're getting. It's emotional dad rock, but the guy's dad was a pastor or churchman of some description, and he carries that with him, and that's what the lyrics are about in both those tracks, I think. So they played one, I Can Barely Breathe, I think maybe the one that they played at the 2000 G's, and Where Have You Been will be the other one, which I think is a song about him talking about his faith. So that's going to be my choice. I will check on the record immediately when I come off this to see which one I haven't recommended. And I think that it may well be the case that from last week's pod, or maybe the one before, that hasn't been updated. James doesn't help me with that task, much like a lot of the tasks on this fucking podcast. So I will make sure that that's updated. And when we'll talk about fucking tasks, where is our banner, James? Where is our banner?
Are you fucking kidding me, aren't you?
See, I never came you. So here's me being the consummate professional. I went back to the stage later on that night, and your fantastic stage manager was there, and I asked her, "Oh, I'll just grab the banner," and she said, "Someone from production." It was a woman's name, Jen from production, grabbed your banner earlier. And then I text Marshall, because I was like, I'm not fucking texting James Wells at the festival, saying, "Marshall, can you duke into production?" And he went after the festival pretty much finished up, and he said, "All production's all closed down and they're kind of done for the night." And he said, "Okay, well, let's hope that banner has been taken by somebody responsible and placed somewhere responsible."
Fucking hell. Well, I mean, I can only ask people, because I can tell you what, I haven't seen it. But Sarah's, I think Sarah usually saves the day on these sorts of things. So
yeah, listen, there's no way it's been picked up by somebody in production and putting a bin, so it will be somewhere. And shout out to our friends at Pins and Knuckles for that banner. It looked fantastic. I hope we can get it hung at a tree.
I hope we can get a new one printed for ATG.
I hope we can get it back. If not, I hope we get a new one printed, and we'll hopefully get that one hung as well, because it did look great, and it'll be the stage or the backdrop bit of ATG is a bit big as well. So hopefully you'll see the full dimensions of it. James, mate, we made it work. Hopefully, we're saying this, we're going to send this to Bri. I have no idea. I just thought about this in the last 5 minutes. Every conversation that we ever have in Zoom on my computer at home, I need to record it as I see it. So instead, I've had this in speaker mode, so I've just a dot in the corner and I can look directly at you. Whereas you'll see when it's always, I'm always looking across the screen. The reason I'm always looking across the screen is that's where you are on my screen. I'm not sure when the Brian gets this, if this is going to come to him, that you're a big giant and I'm a wee dot in the corner on the Celtic top. So I'm praying that's not the case. And if that's what Brian does get, God knows what magic he's going to have to come up with on YouTube for us to look at anyway, even on this podcast. So add it to the fucking checklist of fucking shit that we've put ourselves through for this podcast. But listen, fair play to us for showing up and making sure that this still coming out and keeping it fresh. So thank you, mate, because you're like, I'm the one on holiday, but you're also carving out time, as you're saying, as you're getting up at 6 in the morning and working till 11 o'clock at night and stuff. So fair play for showing up for this one too, mate. I appreciate it.
All good, mate. I appreciate you taking some time out of your holiday. It was good. Good.
We will go again. See you after, mate.